You'll notice here the blood flow in my hands and in my feet and even in my face. All of these things are now receiving more blood because there's pressure building from the inside, and it's like I'm giving myself a compression wrap with my muscles. And this saturation of the body with blood, the fullness, it gives us a sense of expansion in ourselves and containment, which is in line with feeling safe in the nervous system. And not just safe because you're imagining you're safe, but feeling like you're in your body, having a sensation of your body. Okay, we're going to go through a little nervous system reset introduced to me by MovMed. And the idea here is to create a sense of containment through the body with a light muscular wrapping, and feel how the internal pressure of the breath pushes out against that containment. And not only is it the breath, but it's just the feeling of the density and depth of your body being held by this outer layer. Sometimes in restorative practices, when we're completely soft through the limbs and we're all loose, it's not necessarily as comforting as we'd like, because it's like we're missing the structure to feel safe within. And on the other end of the spectrum, if you're too muscularly bound and you're always relying on mechanical tension to feel safe, and you're not aware of your internal posture, you can't sense your body, that's not good either. So this is a great way to bring together the yin and yang aspects of this body that we're working with. So there's a couple things I want you to keep in mind as you go through this. In the theme of resetting the nervous system, keep your gaze open, panoramic. Stay open to your senses and smell the air as you breathe in. You'll feel the difference when you do that. So inhale, smelling the air. Keep the gaze and the senses open. All right. So take a seat on a box. This box ideally is something around knee height, maybe a little bit higher, and you can sit towards the edge. You want to feel comfortable and based on your pelvis. You should feel your sit bones pressing down through the box. You want to feel that your feet are centered just under your knees. And from this position here, grow tall through the spine. Feel the back of your spine growing long to the rear crown of your head. And now as you start to breathe through the nose through this entire exercise, I want you to become aware of the expansion and contraction, the pressure that's happening here. It's like a pump or a syringe as you inhale and the diaphragm drops. Exhale and the diaphragm rises. And from here, noticing that pressure, if we notice that it's spilling forward, what I want you to do is bring your knees slightly closer together and have this feeling of closing in through the front midline as the back body comes out and broadens and expands. Sometimes bringing the sternum slightly back can help with that. So we're going to inhale through the nose. And now you may feel that your side and back ribs expand more. If you want to dial up that sensation even more of having a secure, controlled midline that's nice and snug with expansion at the back, then you can use a yoga block or a foam roller and place it between your thighs. Just maintain a light squeeze through that, and you'll notice how that secures your pelvis. From here, we're going to contract the glutes slightly, and you'll notice if I force this, my body raises up. So just a little bit of glute contraction to put some muscle under the sit bones and contain the hips. And now when I breathe, I'm feeling that pressure building up, but it's not spilling forward, it's being contained in my whole midsection and even almost broadening through my hips. There's this feeling of the pressure pressing down and out to give me space through my hips, through the back and sides especially. Resting the hands on the thighs. Smelling the inhale. Maintaining that sense of pressure through the exhale. My muscles are forming pads for me to sit on, and I can feel my weight traveling down through the bench. and through my feet as well. Now I'm going to become aware of my throat, and I'm going to draw my throat down. I'm going to allow myself to be heavy, almost like a turtle withdrawing its neck into its shell. It's this slight feeling of drawing down and letting my throat sink through to my hips. We're not tucking the chin. If anything, we're just letting the chin drop slightly. Feeling how that expands the back of the neck at the base of the skull. Building the pressure as we breathe in, maintaining the pressure as we breathe out. A light muscular wrapping of the midsection. We're not completely relaxed in this exercise. We're containing ourselves with some muscular tension. And we allow the shoulder blades to sit on the back ribs. Allow them to sit down and on the back ribs. If you want to feel this more clearly, it's the feeling of connecting your triceps to your sides and rolling your lats behind and out the way of your ribs. And you'll notice how as I keep my arms close to my sides, there's a certain broadness that I can have across my collarbones and the top of the chest. Breathing, scanning through the cues. So I'm expanding my back body and my lateral ribs. I'm feeling that expansion against my triceps as they're rolled back to sweep the lats back. My glutes are lightly contracted, sitting on them like a cushion, and I can feel my weight down through the bench and through my feet. Long through the back of the neck, dropped through the chin, to keep a broad base of my skull and neck. Smelling the air to inhale, feeling the pressure, and then maintaining the pressure on the exhale. And you can now start to lightly drag the tops of your shins back. So you'd be pressing your heels into the ground and gently pulling the heels towards you. So there's this almost intent to shift forward, but as I do that, I'm not going to tilt my pelvis. I'm maintaining my postural cues. And you might feel a little bit of pressure or a little bit of warmth through your face and through your hands and feet. You're creating a compression against yourself and you're expanding into that space. Internal pressurization. Now optionally, at the top of your inhale, you can add a swallow before you exhale. And when you do swallow, I want you to draw that swallow down towards your root, towards your perineum, the base of your seat. And notice any sensation available. The swallow will feel deeper the more in tune with your midline you are. Now the next optional layer is the glove pull. So you'll take one hand, you place it in your underarm fully, the thumb is through, and then we close down the other hand on top. And it's like we're trying to pull a glove off that hand by drawing this shoulder and arm back. It's a similar cue to what we had with sweeping the lats behind us using the triceps. And that same sensation of the upper arm hugging the sides of the body is what we're going to breathe into. Gradually allow your shoulders to seat themselves back on your ribs and sink down towards your base. and scan through the other cues. So I've got pressurized breathing, a light wrapping of the abdominal muscles, smelling the air as I breathe in, feeling the pressure build through my trunk. Swallowing if you want to, drawing that low, and then breathing out. As I breathe in, I'm feeling the expansion through my pelvic bowl, the broadening of my breath through my hips. I'm sitting on slightly contracted glute muscle, like a pad. Feeling the weight of my feet and hips through the floor. Lightly dragging my heels towards me. Feeling spacious through the back of my neck. And you can switch sides. Same thing. Pulling the glove off the hand. It's helping you seat your shoulder blades down on the back of your rib cage. Relaxing the hands as you do this. And maintaining these cues can be slightly stressful, physically and mentally, but as you practice, it will feel like you're combining these pieces into one thing, one way of sitting. And although you are placing your body under stress, it's giving you the opportunity to continue to stay in touch with your senses. Smelling the air, panoramic gaze, saturating the mind in the body rather than meeting the yang of contraction with fight or flight. Instead, we're going to meet the yang with yin and stay, release. Notice how your weight may shift to one side, how you might find yourself arching or tucking your pelvis, and return to that feeling of the 360-degree fullness of the breath, expanding the midsection and pressing down and out through the hips. After holding the glove pull for a minute or so on each side, you can sit tall. And you're going to stretch the skin back on your neck. So actually pressing the fingers back to give the back of your neck and the base of your skull more skin, and expand into that by dropping the chin and lengthening the rear crown of the head. As you do that, you don't want your shoulders to come out too wide, your elbows rather. You want to have them quite narrow here. And not necessarily wrapped forward, but sat back. And now you can feel the shoulder blades sitting back on the ribs, and as the lateral ribs expand with the breath, you can feel that happening just in front of your shoulder blades. Return to the same cues, optionally swallowing at the top of the inhale, maintaining pressure through the midsection, expansion through the back, really residing in your back body, sitting on top of slightly contracted glutes and pulling those feet, which are also pressing through the ground, slightly back towards you. If your shoulders are getting sore, part of that is normal, and part of it is also that you may be able to sit your shoulder blades more back on the ribs so that your arms feel as if they're shorter and lighter. Expanding the neck into the hands, giving skin to the base of the skull. Noticing how your weight may have shifted. Although this may be physically somewhat intense, stay panoramic with your view. Feeling, listening, alternating with the cues and smelling the air. Okay, so as you come out of this, we'll now move to standing. And this feeling of dragging the heels towards you, you can feel how it kind of rolls you forward on your skin. And without bending forward too much, just by shifting the weight forward, like so, and optionally reaching, but I don't want you to change the position of your spine too much if you reach. I want you to kind of keep your shoulders where they are. You're going to rock forward, place more weight through the feet, and then rock back. Still with the glutes under the sit bones. So we're at home sitting on top of the strength of the hips and the glutes, and we're feeling this space in the back. Breathing in, smelling the air, shift forward. Load the feet. Breathing out, keep the pressure, sit back. Breathing in, smell the air. Panoramic view, weight shifts to the feet. Breathing out, shift back. Sitting on the glutes, slightly dragging the heels towards you. What we'll do is start to progress this towards breathing in, swallowing, taking the swallow deep down through the diaphragm to the base, and then sitting back to breathe out. And again, breathing in, smelling, swallowing, breathing out, back to the base. And then we'll start to progress this, breathing in, smelling the air, shifting forward, reach the hands forward, and take more weight on the feet. Come back, breathe out. Spreading the heels, feeling space in the backs and sides of the glutes, and sitting down. So it's this feeling that as we squeeze the knees, we're helping the top of the pelvis be broadened. We're helping the pelvic floor be broadened. There's some slight tension in the pelvic floor that we want to hold to, the containment, but the thigh bones are being spread apart up high, and we're splaying the feet down and out through the ground. You can then progress this to standing. And as you come up, if I show you that again, if we're dragging the heels back and we're sitting on top of those lightly contracted glutes, then it's like we're bringing the hips under us. We're staying over the hips. Even if we're leaning forward, the perception or the feeling is that we're staying over the hips, pressing through the floor to come up. And you won't come up fully, you're going to keep a light bend in the knees and a light crease in the hips. Slowly straighten, but not to locked out. The reason for this is that when you're slightly bent in the knees and seated in the hips, your inner thigh flesh will be rolled and pulled back. And that will help you to get the feeling as you spread the floor and as you breathe of internal rotation and lifting in, while the back body becomes spacious. The glutes don't have dimples in them, they're not tight, but you will feel sensations of the upper glutes meeting the breath as the breath pushes down, and the feeling of spreading and opening your back body. So standing here now, maintaining that spreading through the floor, feeling the sense of broadening that this object is offering, and if you need to adjust it sideways depending on your anatomy, or bring it higher up, you can, but we want to have relatively parallel legs. So if it's narrow, you might step narrower. If it's wider, you might step wider. And resetting the posture. So although you can't see it on camera, it's the same cues from my shoulders as before, drawing the upper arms back. Feeling the broadness across my collarbones and breathing high and wide through my ribs to press out against myself. Maintaining the pressure. Maintaining the sense of being balanced and grounded through the legs with this wrapping inward and this spacious spreading of the back body. And you can also explore in this position incorporating the glove pull and the neck pull as well. This is a layer cake of a practice. So even starting with a couple of cues simply just seated is great. A couple of cues simply holding the block, standing, breathing, maintaining the pressure is great. And then we just layer on the complexity so that you can feel your body as one unit operating in all of these ways without micromanaging. Feels like one thing instead of 10. And that just comes with practice and repetition. Hopefully what you'll notice afterwards is that you feel centered, posturally strong, calm, primed, this really beautiful integrated state of being in your body and being powerful while being relaxed. And you may notice changes in your voice or in the blood flow to your hands and the way you stand and walk. So all good things to look out for.